everyone, welcome back to my channel. Don't know if you could tell, well, you definitely can tell by my body that I am tan. I just came back from vacation, summer vacation if you will. Clearly my foundation does not match and I need to get a new one, but in the spirit of summer vacation I wanted to go about reading a bunch of books in my head that are summer reads that have been on my shelves, that are in my TBR, that I just like haven't gotten to, and I felt like this would be the perfect video. So this is kind of like my summer reading, if you will. So I have 4 books here that I'm gonna go through with you guys and tell you my thoughts and opinions and everything as I go through them. So the first book I have is The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. As far as I know with this one, it's kind of like a Groundhog Day situation where the main character lives the same day over and over. Nothing in this book thematically is like summer, but Lynn Painter's writing is usually always summery for me because her books I feel like I can read really quickly, I can binge them, they're light, like I feel like I could take it to the beach and finish it in one day, which is kind of like what I'm looking for in like a summer read sometimes, especially when I just want to like sit there and binge a book. So that's why I picked this one for this video. The next book I have is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. So my best friend loves this book. So that's why I wanted to read it, but I'm pretty sure this is like in a summery setting. I think this one just takes place on like an island during a wedding, but something about like a little beach town, Newport Island, is always something like Prince Edward Island or like one of those types of stories, like a Martha's Vineyard type situation. So that's why I wanted to read this. And then I also picked this one because I feel like this would be something that would be on a summer reading list, like if you were maybe not in high school but in college. I mean, they make you read really old books for summer reading, I feel like, for the most part, but thematically, from what I've heard from my best friend and just like reviews and stuff like that, I feel like this explores a lot of different themes that I feel like are consistent with the book that a school would typically pick for a summer reading book. So that's why I wanted to pick this one. And then also I feel like the cover is like summery. I feel like it's giving like Hampton summer for whatever reason. So I'm excited to read this. I know little to none about it except that I think it takes place during a wedding and there's some sort of like death or like some situation, but other than that I don't know much. But best friend's recommendation, can't go wrong. So that's gonna be the next or another book I read in this video. Then I have 2 like new releases that I wanted to pick up, and these are like, one of them is extremely summery. This is called It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. I'm sure everyone and their mom has heard of this. I feel like her books are always like, they are summer books. I mean, her last book, I think it was her last one, is called Summer Romance. So I feel like you know exactly what you're gonna get in terms of this, but I like the cover. It's really beachy. I feel like this is self-explanatory as to why this is like summery, so I don't think I need to explain, but I wanted to read this new release. I have read, I think, her entire backlist of books. Like, I've read all of her books. Some of them are hits, some of them are misses for me, but I did really want to read this, and I feel like a lot of people have really good things to say about this, so I'm excited to see what happens in this book. And then the last one I picked is also a new release. This is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I have read, I think, 2 other Ashley Poston books and they've both been hits for me. It's 7 Year Slip, which is right back there, and then also A Novel Love Story, and I actually liked that one as well. So she's the queen of like magical realism. But first of all, this is a new summer release. I feel like the cover is really summery, but also I think this has to do with like love, like a love song, and I don't know, I just feel like it's very romantic, and when I think of romantic books I think of the summer, which is kind of odd because you'd think it's like Valentine's Day, but it's not. It's like summer for me. So this is gonna be the 4th book I read in this video. So I know most of them are romances, specifically like similar romances, but that's why I also threw The Wedding People in here so that we would have some sort of mix in the house. But yeah, those are gonna be the books I read in this video. Stay tuned to see what I think about them, and thanks for watching. The first book I'm going to be reading for this video is The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I actually bought this last summer when I was in India and then never got around to reading it, but I'm really excited because most of the time Lynn Painter's books are a hit for me. Specifically Betting on You, that's probably not only my favorite book by her, but one of my favorites ever. I love, love, love that book. But this one I've been wanting to read. I don't think that this is very summery in nature because I think it's like a Groundhog Day type trope, and I'm pretty sure they're like in school or something like that. So, you know, it's definitely not like summer in theme, but I feel like the book cover is like bright and fun, and I like a sweet, wholesome, lighthearted romance for the summer rather than like heavier books. And I feel like Lynn Painter's books are very like light in my mind, so that's why I wanted to read this one. And I'm just gonna read you the blurb because all I know about this book is it's about like some girl and she gets stuck in like this Groundhog Day on Valentine's Day where it just keeps repeating itself, but I don't know like what else. So I'm gonna read the back and we're gonna find out together. Really excited. It's very short. I have a feeling I'll probably finish this in a day, 2 max, but I can't wait to read it. I really like this main character a lot because she reminds me a lot of myself, especially in terms of feeling like you need to be perfect all the time, or just the way that she thinks about things. I feel like she's very type A anal, which I am as well. So I really like that. And I also feel like this book is a bit more into really delving into the fact that her parents are kind of neglectful, which I kind of like, because in Betting on You, like they're like a big plot line of that was like both the parents were divorced, and how it affects, you know, the children like as they grow up. But in this one she talks about it like really early on, and she talks about how her parents are kind of selfish, like they make these decisions and they kind of do whatever they want to do, but they don't think about the blowback for her, and how she feels like alone in this thing. And I don't think I can relate to that in terms of like the parental thing, but the fact that like I'm an only child, I feel like there's a lot of things like that she feels like lonely, and she feels like she has to be perfect and overcompensate for the fact that there's like other things going on, which I really liked. So far I really like this book. I'm interested to hear more about Nick's backstory because that's, you know, the one that she doesn't like or whatever. That's my update for now. I'm gonna keep going. I'm already 40 pages in. I feel like I'm gonna fly through this, so I'll probably give my next update at like the 50% mark because I feel like I'm just gonna get there, but I'll let you know when I get there. I did end up finishing The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I know I said I was gonna come back and give an update, but I just ended up binging the whole thing in one sitting. I feel like I finished this book in like almost 3 hours basically. It was really easy to go through and I really liked it. I would say of the Lynn Painter books that I've read, my ranking would probably be Betting on You, then Better Than the Movies, then this, then Nothing Like the Movies. Mostly because I think the romance in this one is less, because when you think about it, I mean, it's kind of like magical realism because it's like this, she's living the same day over and over. So I don't know if that's like a fair way to go about thinking about it, but just in general, if you really think about it, the connection between the two love interests in this book is just over one day. So I feel like it's less developed than other stories that I feel like I would like more, or that I have liked more by the same author, because it's just over a span of time, so you know that they actually like each other and it's not just like a, oh I love you and that's it, you know? The writing style of Lynn Painter is always tried and true for me. Like I always feel like I love the banter, I love the flirting. Specifically, like I said, most of the boys and the girls honestly have the same personality in essentially all of her books in my opinion. So I feel like I know what I'm gonna get with that, and so I really like that. And I was like smiling at my book and I was like kicking my feet because I really liked the banter and stuff like that. And I liked Josh's character as well, especially in the beginning, like because he seemed like such a good guy, and then everything that happens after, like I feel like in my head I was like, oh, dang it, why does everyone have to be like kind of shitty? But then at the end of it, he does end up being like a decent human being. I feel like he owns up to like what he did and takes responsibility for things. But I also like that he affirmed, he was like, I really liked you. Like I was perfectly happy with you. I really liked that. I don't know why that like really stuck out to me, because I feel like a lot of books that kind of have this similar notion of like a popular guy and like not so popular girl or something, or rather like where there's like an ex involved and things like that, he's like, ah, I just feel like I never got over her. But that wasn't the case in this one, you know. He was like, no, I'm like over her, which I liked. I feel like that made their relationship authentic as well, even though it doesn't last. I feel like it provides like validity for their relationship, which I really liked. And then other than that, I knew there was going to be some backstory with Nick, and I feel like it was good. I liked how it came through. I liked how the backstory really made sense with the way that his character is and moves, like just in life. I feel like it makes sense for his personality a lot, which I really liked. And I liked like the ending as well, how they kind of got back and re-met and whatever. I wish Lynn Paint, it's just because she does such a good job at making me root for the characters in the end, but then she ends the book usually always really quickly, like they'll get together and then the book ends. And I'm like, dude, I need an epilogue chapter or something just to be like, oh, like I want to see how they are in the relationship, because I feel like you get all the buildup with all of her books up until, and then the book ends usually. I stand by the decision that the parents in this one are probably the shittiest. I really didn't particularly like them, but maybe that was the point. And I thought it was good overall. I actually did feel like it was very summery, even though it takes place on Valentine's Day. The entire book is just Valentine's Day. I don't know what it was about this that's really summery. Like I said, I feel like it was just really easy breezy, summery. I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I feel like once I decide, I'll come to you with an update. Hello, hello. It is a couple days later, and I think the next book I'm gonna read is It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. I think what I know, sorry, the sun is setting, so I feel like it's really moody lighting, but whatever. I think the premise of this basically follows this main character who is some sort of screenwriter, and she needs to get somebody to like star in her film or something like that, and that somebody is somebody she used to know or something like that from her high school. This is confusing now because I thought the love interest would be like the Jack character, like the old time pop star, but it looks like it's the blurb at least is centered around Dan. So we'll see what this story entails. I'm gonna start reading it now and let you guys know what I think as I go. Hello, hello. So I think I'm really bad at doing periodic updates because my tendency is to just binge books, which is exactly what I did with It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan, but I did end up finishing this last night, and I'm a little bit conflicted. I think that I really liked the chemistry and felt the chemistry between the two main characters, Jane and Dan, and I really liked that. A lot of characters in this book were extremely insufferable for no reason, and I also think most of the other relationships that she talks about in this book that she claimed were important didn't really give that vibe. So I guess we can start from the beginning. So in terms of the plot, so I did ascertain kind of what this talks about. So it follows Jane, who used to be like a sitcom actress when she was a teenager, but she was like the geeky character, and so now she's all grown up. She is like a screen writer, kind of like producer, like she picks screenplays to be adapted into movies essentially, and she comes across the script that she absolutely loves and is extremely passionate about, and it's a love story except for the fact that she in real life is like kind of like a love cynic, which I feel like is a bit overdone, but whatever. And she ends up having to work with Dan, who is like a filmmaker. He's like a videographer, photographer type, because he really believes in this project as well, except they kind of have some bad blood because they originally hit it off, but then he shut down basically like one of the projects that she was working on. So she doesn't like him very much, but they both really believe in the story, and when they take it to their bosses are basically like, there's no wow factor in this, there's no like big thing that's going on here. And so Jane, in a desperate attempt to like save this movie, she's like, oh, I can get Jack Quinlan to write a song for this movie. Now Jack Quinlan is like a big pop star that she sang one song with way back when she was on the sitcom, and she kind of embarrassed herself in front of him, and so in a desperate attempt to do that, she says she could get him even though they haven't spoken in years. And so basically the book follows after that whole instance. Jack Quinlan ends up visiting Dan's hometown, so then they both go to the hometown to kind of get Jack to try and convince him to write a song for this movie so that they could make this movie essentially. And then of course along the way they fall in love essentially, and she has a single mom, and he comes from a huge family, and I really liked the Dan dynamic in terms of his family. I think like that was a very unique exploration of what it means to come from a big family, and I really liked it. I liked that the concept was, I love my family, I adore my family, but I don't like, I want to be separate from them. I thought that was such a unique take, because especially in books, I feel like sometimes you get this idea quite often, right, of somebody that comes from a small family going into a big family, but it's all about melding perfectly into this big family and feeling at home, which Jane does. But I also think such a big part of this book was Dan talking about how he wants to stand out. I just thought that was such a unique, refreshing take, especially for a mailman character in this in this like book community and book world. I really, really liked that concept. And yeah, that's essentially what the book follows. But then Jane, I think her I had a bit more trouble with. I really understood her, I think, but some of her actions I think were a little annoying, specifically to the last third of the book, obviously. But then also with her mom, like, her mom was not a good mom. Like, why are we like pretending like her mom was a good mom, right? Like, I feel like she was just gaslighting Jane the entire time, which I don't even understand why. And then it is confusing to me that they kind of had this like rift, but then they talk about how they've always been close. Like, they haven't, because there's always been this rift where they both weren't able to really connect. So there's like one line towards the end of the book where she's like, oh, the two most important people in my life are Clem and Mom. But I didn't really get that with Mom, because I'm just like, what's going on there? With Clem, I really liked her character. I wish we would have gotten to see a bit more of their interaction, because it's clear to me that they have a very beautiful and like strong friendship. But you don't get to see it much. But it's like you get glimpses of, because of how much Clem understands Jane. But I wish there was more of what Jane gives to Clem to feel like their relationship is like strong and true and not one-sided, because I feel like it was just Clem being there for her the whole time. And I wish we've gotten to explore that a little bit more, because one thing about me is I'm a sucker for best friends and female friendships that really get each other, which I feel like they do, but we just didn't get to see a lot of it. So that's my opinions on It's a Love Story. I did end up liking this. I think I'm gonna give this like a 3.25. I liked it more than average, but there was like quite a few things that I kind of had an issue with maybe. And I don't know that I would like reread this anytime soon. I am gonna go with Wedding People, I think, because I just read 2 romances, so just to break it up, because the Ashley Possum book is also a romance, so just to space it out a little bit, I think I'm going to go into The Wedding People, which I'm really excited about. Though I have a feeling this is a bit heavier, which I have heard as well, but like I said, my best friend likes this book, so we're going to read it together. Let's take off the disc jacket. Boom. Okay, cute. And let's get reading. Hello. So I have started The Wedding People. I'm about, how many pages in am I? I'm about 50 pages in at this point, and I think I'm liking it so far. And I'm really happy about that, because it's definitely not my typical style of book. My typical style of book is just some sort of romance or literary fiction, maybe, if pushing that, or like some sort of fantasy. So basically at this point in the book, you kind of, the plot is just, this follows the main character Phoebe, who goes to this hotel essentially in Newport that she sees on a magazine like years ago as like her dream destination vacation, because her life has basically fallen apart. Her and her husband get divorced, and she decides that like she wants to kill herself, but she wants to do it in this hotel on this island basically. So she goes, books like a room there, so that will be like her last night there. And coincidentally, when she gets there, there is simultaneously a wedding going on. But that's kind of all we know at this point. But the reason I said I'm not sure if I would like this is because the writing style is, like I said, it's not very pink, like it's not very fluffy, it's very to the point, and I've noticed that the author likes to do like 2 short sentences and then a long sentence. Not the entire time, but that's the way that she likes to write. And so I feel like reading that is really easy to get through. So she'll be like da 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 blah 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 blah. So I don't even know if that made sense, but that's kind of the way that it's written. So it's like, she didn't like that, she hated this, she hated that, but you know what she didn't hate? She didn't hate the sound of this and the feel of this and the look of this, kind of like that. And so something about that writing is really easy for me to get through, but it's definitely not very exciting, which is why I said it's like pushing me out of my comfort zone. at least at 50 pages in, there's kind of like nothing happening. It's more of like you're just being told like the background and you're just gathering, kind of setting the scene. And I have a feeling that might be the way that the whole book is structured. Like I don't know that the story, I don't know what the story is, but I don't know that the story currently is anything that has like a really thick, inviting, like crazy plot. But I'm liking it, which I find interesting because I feel like I usually read, you know, books with that sort of thing, which ironically is so like on brand with what Annabelle Monaghan talked about in It's a Love Story, like the previous book that I just read for this video, because in that one, the true story script that they're trying to get published, that's like the whole thing with that story, is that it doesn't have all these bells and whistles and plots and this. It's just like very natural and kind of like, it's just like the way that they are, and it's just about being. And that's definitely how I feel about this book, at least so far. I could be way off, who knows. But yeah, I'm really liking it so far. It also doesn't necessarily go by chapters. It's kind of just in like random parts. I think it goes by days, maybe. Yeah, like, so you have like the Tuesday, which is the part that I'm on, which is the opening reception. So so far so good. I will keep going and come back when I give you guys like, or when I have more updates. Okay, so I finished, I guess, the first chapter or part, if you will. First day of Wedding People. I finished all of Tuesday. I'm very unsure about how I feel about this entire book so far, because I kind of stand by my thoughts before. There's not much of a plot. I just feel like I'm kind of in the inner workings of our main character, Phoebe. And normally I feel like I don't really like books like that. Like I feel like a lot of times Sally Rooney's writing is like that, where it's very introspective maybe and just like into the character's mind. But something about this book, I actually like it. I don't know what it is that makes this a lot less boring to me, but it is, or rather isn't boring, so I'm really liking that. I'm not sure if this is intentional, and I'm just like not knowledgeable enough about like writing styles and things like that, but she uses the characters' names so much, and that's like one thing that I don't like, and I'm guessing it's intentional, but it just makes it seem so like a first grader is writing it. Oh, here we go. This is just like one paragraph in the section, right? The crowd laughs and Phoebe wonders if Lila is laughing. She wonders if this story has pleased her or mortally wounded her in some way, if the story has confirmed all her worst fears about herself, about her mother, or if there was actually something sweet and communicated here that only Lila could understand. Phoebe doubts it, but hopes so. Phoebe hopes that the mother will somehow turn it around soon, dig herself out of this hole, repackage Lila's information as her best quality, not to mention the reason she's so perfectly suited for the groom, Phoebe's favorite part of any wedding speech. But Phoebe will never know what happens. By the time Lila's mother is finished talking, Phoebe will be dead. Phoebe will not get to know how the speech ends or how anything ends, and Phoebe does not like this. Phoebe always finishes a book or a movie, even a bad one. I think you get the point. Like, that was just in one paragraph. And I'm sure there's like a reason that it's done that way, but as a reader, I'm just like, oh my god, we get it. We get it. Especially because this is basically a look into Phoebe's mind. I'm like, we know, girl, we know that this is what Phoebe thinks. We know it's Phoebe thinking these things. Like, you don't need to clarify this 20 times. But yeah, that's like the main, or like one of the only gripes I have with this so far. And like I said, something about this is not interesting, but it's still not boring. So I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but that is how I feel. For my next update, I'm just probably gonna finish this day and then come back, or who knows, maybe the next update I would have binged the whole thing. I guess time will tell. Hello, another day, another sunset update. So I officially finished, I don't know why I said officially, I finished the Wednesday part of the Wedding People, so now I'm on Thursday, and I have to say I really like it so far. I think I like the Wednesday portion way more than the Tuesday portion. I think I said this in my last update, but I felt like the Tuesday portion was really like info dumping, which makes sense when you kind of get the context of the way that the story is written. But the Wednesday portion I really liked because I feel like there was more happening, quote unquote. I just felt like the Tuesday part was just the build up until we got to present time, and now that in Wednesday we're officially in present time, which I like because I feel like it's just more connected with the story and the character and kind of what she's going through. And I really liked the premise and the setup of Wednesday. I kind of figured out who Gary would be when they met in the hot tub. I just had a feeling, and I liked that too. And I also really like the dynamic between Phoebe and Lila. I think that it's so, especially towards the end of this part, it's like meant to be that they are so polar opposite, but yet they are so similar in the way that they're alone. And I really like that concept, and I really like this book now. Like, I'm really liking it. I think a lot of the commentary is hard for me to relate to from Phoebe because her mindset is a lot different from mine, and just like the way she views things and life. I think I'm not like super connected to her in that sense because I don't find her quite so relatable. And I think it's really endearing, the connection that Phoebe and Lila have with each other, that they are just both like, okay, fuck it, like we're just gonna tell each other everything. And I really like that. I don't know, it's a kind of an odd pairing, like a kooky pairing, but I'm really liking it. Okay, so I just finished the Thursday chapter. I think my thoughts are pretty consistent with my last update. I think that this one really focused on Phoebe's growth. I think the outlandish part of this is like this whole growth thing is happening in the span of like 4 days. But I feel like the first chapter was all a backstory. Then the second day was like just her realizing, oh, she's still alive, like, and like her coming to terms with that. And then this was like very much, I feel like, internalizing and kind of in her brain rectifying a lot of the things that she used to feel, not having to explain it away, but rather like come to terms with it and realize like what she's thinking is okay and the way that she feels is okay, and she doesn't need to be embarrassed about what she is feeling. And so I feel like that was the majority of this chapter, which was really nice because you see that realization that Phoebe has manifest in the way that she interacts with the relationships around her. And I also just really like kind of the irony of the fact that I feel like everyone around her at this wedding, the wedding people, if you will, think that she is like this all of the time. And yet it's like she is doing to herself what she is doing for other people in real time rather than kind of retrospectively, which I just think is really interesting. And very different. I think that some of this can get a little bit rambly and monologue-y. Like, it's not, you know, super interesting 100% of the time. But I think that's okay because it's basically you're just following her thought of consciousness as she's coming to terms with these realizations that she's having. And coincidentally enough, I feel like for once, the romance or the love, I guess, in this is not the thing that is motivating me to read it or is keeping me going. I know that I said I didn't emotionally connect to the character, but I am just rooting for her now. And not just her, I just want to see everyone end up where they're going to end up. I'm curious to see where that is going to be and how that's going to like transpire and stuff. I think I'm going to stop doing the part by part updates. Unless I have something like riveting to say. So I did finish The Wedding People by Alison Espach, and I just kind of wanted to give my final thoughts. So I'd say overall I did really enjoy this book. It's a lot more than I anticipated because it's not my typical genre that I like to read on a daily basis. And so on that note, I really enjoyed it. I don't want to repeat myself much since I've already kind of talked about my feelings sporadically as I've, you know, been going. But basically I think like the main or like major thing that I had wanted to say was I think the ending got a little bit cliche for me. I mean, it's just like one of those things where you kind of knew what the outcome of the book was going to be, so I don't know if it's fair for me to say that that's cliche, but I almost wish the way that this book was written, I was pleasantly surprised by what was going on, and so I kind of wish that that carried through till the end, but it didn't. And even I felt a little bit disappointed, I think, in Phoebe once Matt came back into the picture, because I just felt like she had such a transformative experience through these last couple of days when she was staying at the Cornwall, and then I just feel like she reverted back. And I get that the point is, like, the author is saying like she didn't revert back because she realized, but I feel like the Phoebe that I had gotten to know throughout the point of the book up until that point wouldn't have like entertained anything with Matt. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but I definitely do. So I think in that way I was a little bit disappointed with her. And then, like, we knew what was going to happen with the wedding. I did not, you know, like, everyone kind of saw that coming, but I just feel like it ended up being a little more cliche than I would have liked. But nonetheless, I did enjoy it. I would say I'm gonna give this book a 3.5 out of 5. It was really good. The writing was beautiful. It was a bit different, out of my comfort zone, so I really liked that. And I think that it had some really beautiful quotes in here. I think for me, I had a hard time kind of connecting with it or getting super invested in it, and I feel like the ending ended up being a little bit too cliche for me. So yeah, but I definitely am glad that I read this. Like I said, it's very different than what I'm used to, so I definitely like that. That is The Wedding People, and then I think I only have one book left, which is the Ashley Poston book, so I will eventually start that, and I think it's upstairs, so I have to bring it and read the blurb and everything. So once I start that, I will give you guys the update and we'll keep going from there. See ya. Okay, last book in this video is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I think all I know about this, I think, is well, Ashley Poston's books always incorporate some sort of magical realism. I think this one has to do with like somebody being a songwriter or having to do with that. I'm gonna start this, and then when I make some headway or have something to say, I'm gonna come back and let you guys know. So I ended up finishing Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, and I was so disappointed by this. And that makes me really sad. I thought I was going to love this because I really did enjoy her other two books that I've read, but I really did not like this. So I guess starting from the beginning, so the plot summary on the back I feel like is not true as to what happens to the book, or I feel like it leads you in one direction as opposed to what actually happens. But you know, maybe that was the point. But essentially this book follows Joni, who is a songwriter, and she writes songs for famous artists, and her recent couple of songs have been huge hits. So she's really popular right now, but she's kind of experiencing writer's block, and she doesn't exactly know what to do yet to kind of like get out of this writer's block. And so she goes to the concert for one of the singers of her song, and she meets this guy there whose name is Sebastian, and he is basically like, I feel like this was like a Harry Styles fan fiction. So he's like the Harry Styles, like he used to be in a boy band, and basically they do not have a good first interaction, but after that first interaction she goes back home. She lives in like the Outer Banks, and she goes back home to her family's like bar that they own, but it's like a music bar. That was my favorite part. I feel like the setting of that sounded so fun. I would love to be there and visit there and go there. But she goes back to her hometown and her family's business because her mom is sick, and she goes back to kind of reconnect with them. And then when she goes back home, her parents tell her basically that they are closing down this family business. She realizes that they can talk into each other's minds basically. And that's the beginning, and that is already so much. I feel like this book had a lot going on, but basically it transpires from there, and like the way that the plot goes down. I think the only character that I really liked in this book, surprisingly, was Sebastian, or Sasha. I felt like he was the only one that was sincere and himself throughout the entire thing. I really disliked the main character. I feel like she was so wishy-washy, and I just hate like the miscommunication thing. I hate that. And she is the biggest proponent of that. Whereas with him, I feel like he can't quite articulate like what he's feeling, or he can't really express it. But with her, you're like reading her thoughts, and she can. She's just like a wuss and she doesn't want to say it. Really dislike the main character. The parents in this book suck. They are not good parents. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but like I did not feel like an ounce of sympathy for her parent. I mean, obviously I felt bad because she has dementia, but like they were acting like a bunch of kids. Like they were not acting like parents. And then even Gigi, that's the main character's best friend, I thought I would really like her. I really disliked her too. I feel like she's so woe is me, blah, blah, blah. Like the whole fight that they got into was honestly like Gigi's fault. Like I feel like Joni was just trying to vent, and then Gigi was like, well, you have it so much better, blah blah blah. Like no one made you stay here, girl. Like you could have gone and done whatever the hell you wanted. So I really ended up disliking her character, and then I just felt like there was so much unnecessary things, and then their whole like connection basically transpires into this like love song that they're writing. And this had the potential to be the arc that Austin and Ally was on Disney Channel, and it just did not deliver. It was just like so bad. I feel like it was rushed. I felt like the connection between the two characters was real, so that's like one positive thing, but then she just ignored it for most of the time, and then she was like going on dates with Van, whose name is Van. She was going on dates with him, and like it was just so convoluted. I wasn't sure if this was like meant for her to realize something about herself. I didn't get it. I really disliked the parents a lot. I feel like they really ruined a lot of it for me, because I'm like, what are you guys doing? You guys are terrible. And it just didn't have that like beautiful, magical, deep, thoughtful, romantic feeling that I got from 7 Year Slip. I don't know, I'm kind of sad about this one. I really thought I would like it more than I did. In this book, I read The Do-Over by Lynn Painter, It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan, The Wedding People by Allison Espach, and Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. Of these four in my summer reading list, I think my favorite was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. Classic, I love her. My least favorite was definitely Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. And then these two were very much in the middle for me. I think I preferred Wedding People over It's a Love Story, just because I think the character in this one was a bit more irritating than this one, but I think the ending of this one was more disappointing than this one. So honestly, I feel like this is pretty consistent with when I had summer reading in school. They would give me like this big list of books, and I wouldn't really love any of them, but then I feel like there would be one that really stood out to me. And I feel like that's pretty consistent with my summer reads. So that's everything that I read in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what you think of them, and if you have any more recommendations for me to get on my summer reading list. But thank you so much for coming along with me and watching, and see you guys in my next video. Bye!